So today we are going to take just a peek at the history of our Native American siblings and learn about colonial maternalism. Hmm, yeah, that was new for me. Yeah. It was something I learned about by accident when I was researching Black women and domestic help. Black women make up a disproportionate number of domestic workers, even to this day, but that's a separate conversation. Today, let's talk about colonial maternalism. Colonial maternalism refers to the ideology and practice where white women, often motivated by a sense of moral duty and benevolence, intervene in the lives of Indigenous women and children, particularly in colonial contexts. They also contributed to the racialized and gendered representations of Native Americans that led to the policies which led to the removal of Native American children from their tribes through their benevolence. Yes. To put it plainly, uh, colonial maternalism is white women, often missionaries, social workers, or government officials, taking on a motherly role in the lives of Indigenous people. This intervention is often framed as a form of motherhood or protection, but it ultimately serves to undermine Indigenous cultures, communities, and power structures. This intervention is often presented as a benevolent act, a way to civilize or protect Indigenous women and children. The ultimate goal of colonial maternalism is to assimilate Indigenous people into the dominant culture, often by controlling their reproductive practices, family structures, and economic activities. More often than not, like I mentioned earlier, it led to the removal of Native American children from their homes. Case in point. By 1900, the government had opened about 150 boarding schools, as well as another 150 day schools, for about 21,500 Native American children. Officials sought to remove every Native American child to a boarding school for a period of at least 3 years. To carry out a policy of Indigenous child removal, male policy makers often enlisted white women because they wanted to overcome their own marginalization. Many white women embraced the opportunity to participate in the colonial project. Now, most women in the late 19th and early 20th centuries supported the position that the Native American child must be placed in school before the habits of barbarous life have become fixed, and there he must be kept until contact with our life has taught him to abandon his savage ways and walk in the path of Christian civilization. Yeah. Another example of colonial maternalism is the outing program. Outing programs had white women place Indigenous women in white homes as domestic workers, effectively controlling their lives and labor. White women learned to assert their authority over workers by attempting to control their whole lives, including their sexuality, leisure activities, social interactions, and mobility beyond the white household. The federal government wanted the outing programs to assimilate Indigenous girls and women as servants who accepted their subordination and rejected their own cultures. To accomplish this, they hired outing matrons who were responsible for placing and managing the Indigenous workers. They trained Indigenous women in Euro American forms of domestic work. The outing matrons were part of a generation of white, middle, and upper class women who desired power. At the end of the 1800s and early 1900s, this generation fought to enter white male professional and political spaces. They presented themselves as experts in the management and racial uplift of poor immigrants and women of color. They created new professional roles by reinforcing racism and sexism, and by advancing U.S. colonialism and imperialism. In this way, they became agents of state surveillance and control. It was at the urging of outing matrons that the Commissioner of Indian Affairs ordered all Native American reservations to abolish their ceremonial dances and rituals from 1923 to 1934. Colonial maternalism is rooted in racist beliefs about the inferiority of Indigenous people, especially Indigenous women and mothers. It perpetuates racial and gender hierarchies, placing white women in position of power over Indigenous people, and it undermines Indigenous culture, traditions, and values by seeking to control Indigenous families and reproductive practices. And I'm going to add that there was a bit of jealousy there as well. Some of these women saw that in some of these tribes, Indigenous women held power. Indigenous women were equal or above Indigenous men, and they were jealous. And they used colonial maternalism to bring Indigenous women down a peg. That's just my personal opinion. When you see others of the same gender doing better than you, you get jealous. And if you have it within your power to knock them down a peg, well, why wouldn't you do that? And we know, right, with their relationship with Black women, that's what white women do.